called a stupa. And you should cremate my body and put the remains inside. Now, you know the Buddha was a very popular man by the time that he was getting ready to pass away. Like I say, unlike Jesus, who died at an early age, imagine what he could have achieved if he lived to be 80 years old, like Lao Tzu, Confucius, and Buddha. Amazing what Jesus would have done. It would be very interesting to see. You saw what he achieved in a short period of time. So he instructed his disciples to cremate his body and to put it in this stupa. But at that time, there were lots of kingdoms that were around where the Buddha lived. And there was actually a war. There was going to be a war between these kingdoms because every one of these 8 kingdoms that surrounded where the Buddha lived wanted a piece of the remains. So there was almost actually wars fighting over his remains. So his ashes, his remains were divided up into 8 sections, and these went into these 8 different stupas in India. None of these stupas really exist today. The base exists on a couple of these, but they say in the museum in New Delhi, they have a container with his ashes in there. So if time permits, we're going to try to take you into that museum. So they've got some fabulous ancient sculpture, Hindu and Buddhist. Every single country that Buddhism made its way in has their version of a stupa. The architectural style changes. This is a Tibetan version. You're in a Tibetan culture. When you go into India, you see the original Indian style stupa. You go to Sri Lanka, you see their stupa is closely related to the Indian, but still a little bit different. When you go into Myanmar, into Thailand, into Cambodia, into Laos, you see and in China, you see all different versions of a stupa, and they call them different names. In Tibetan, this is not called a stupa, it's really called a choten, C-H-O-R-T-E-N, choten. If you go to Thailand and Cambodia, they're called chedi, C-H-E-D-I, chedi. So other than an image of a Buddha, just like in Christianity, a cross or a crucifix is a symbol of Christianity, other than an image of a Buddha, a stupa is an image of Buddhism, an image of Buddhism.
So stupa is those things on the side of the road?
That's all these things that you've seen coming into Ladakh. They're all over the place here.
Things.
Huh?
They're little shrines.
They look like shrines. Stupas are not temples. You don't go inside them. There's only a few stupas in the world that you go inside. Hector and Claudia, they saw one of the most amazing stupas in the Buddhist world. It's in a place called Jansei in Tibet. It's a huge stupa shaped in the form of a mandala, and there's 108 chapels inside, and the entire Indo-Tibetan Buddhist pantheon in painting and sculpture is inside this stupa. It's like a mandala. You walk in, chapel after chapel after chapel, working your way up to the top. It's really incredible.
So are they all, like, does the stupa contain that the very first degree?
Good question. So, okay, very good question. Okay, so I said to you before, you want to make one thing very clear, they're not temples. Normally, you don't go inside them. Sometimes, you'll see one on the beginning or an end of a town or a village. You know, when the people come in, there's usually like a mandala up on the top of it. A lot of the times, I believe they're getting a blessing when they're coming into the city, or they're getting a blessing when they go out of the city. Do you remember we went for our first walk through Leh, and we went in the back streets? Do you remember we walked under the stupa? The Buddhists believe you're getting a blessing by going. If you would have looked up, you would have seen a mandala up on the top. We're going to talk about mandalas during the program as part of the art. So the question is, do all stupas have the remains of a Buddha, a Bodhisattva, or